What's that, Crookie?
Right away, he's not happy. Alex, I can bring you up to date with something that's just happened. We understand Lucas Piazon, the Brazilian who played for Chelsea, is on the move. He's left Chelsea and is joining Braga on a 4-year deal. And of course, Braga is our friend Simon Carlos Carvajal. So,
oh, yes, of course, yes.
Yeah. So Piazon's only 26. He obviously wants to play, and he wasn't going to get game time at Chelsea, Alex.
Do you know he was Chelsea's longest-serving player, Jim? He's actually been there for 10 years. He's made one league appearance in those 10 years.
Gee, there you go. That's why Crook is on and earns the money he earns.
That kind of information.
That kind of
Fabulous.
information. Alex, we like that. What about Aston Villa? They've been in the news this morning because their game against Everton this weekend is postponed. But have you got some news on them?
Yeah, I think it's controversial, that postponement, first and foremost, because they put a team out in the FA Cup, albeit a youthful team. Does the fact they're not willing to field a team in the Premier League suggest that the FA Cup isn't as important as the Premier League? Maybe that's a debate for another time. One player they are keen on, I'm told, is David Brooks down at Bournemouth. I think it would take a big bid to persuade the Cherries to sell Brooks. He's a massive part of their own bid to get back in the Premier League. But I can see why Dean Smith will be looking at this boy. Villa have done really well recruiting from the EFL with the likes of Conser and, of course, Ollie Watkins this season. Brooks is a good age. He's injury-free now after missing most of last season, and is someone who has proved already that he can score goals and assist in the top flight. Villa spent big in the summer, as we know. This would be a show of ambition and proof they mean business. And for me, by the way, Dean Smith, one of the managers of the season for the way that he's turned that club around after they stayed up by the skin of their teeth, and maybe thanks to a technological fault towards the end of last season. They've been brilliant this year.
Yeah,
David Brooks, I mean, for me, when I was a horrible little tabloid hack, or journalist, as you called me last year.
Oh, when you were a Sun columnist.
When I was a Sun columnist.
Yeah.
In the season 1920, I picked him in my dream team because we all lost, and he got injured in the first game, and that was the end of him for the season. But a really, really good player. And if anyone gets him out of Bournemouth, then they'll be getting a really good player, because he's a good player.
when I was a horrible little tabloid hack. I loved that. Alex, I was talking last night at Sky with a Brighton fan, a lad who works in there. They love Tariq Lante. Don't tell me he's leaving there. Don't tell me he's out of there. They'll be absolutely heartbroken.
I did tell you Brighton didn't have a chance against Man City, by the way. In fairness, 1-0, no disgrace, and they played quite well.
Oh, that's true, yeah.
Well done, Mystic Meg.
Not my boldest shout. But Tariq Lamptey, you're dead right. One of the few shining lights, really, for Brighton, who've barely won a game this season, barely won a game since the turn of last year. When you consider that Brighton signed him for around £4 million, he has to be one of the bargain buys of recent times. If they sell him now, you could add 20 million, maybe more. He's by no means the Seagulls' top earner, and that's interesting because I'm being told this morning that he's close to agreeing a new contract, not necessarily just to extend his stay, although that's a bonus, but to give him parity with some of those top earners, and really that's a reflection of the progress that he's made. He does have suitors, not just in England, but in Europe as well. Bayern Munich cast admiring glances in his direction in the summer, but Tariq Lamptey close to committing his future to Brighton. That's much needed good news for Graham Potter.
That is. It's all about names, isn't it? Here's one for you. Marcel Sabitzer. He plays for Leipzig, doesn't he?
He does. They've got some good players, Leipzig. We talked about Upamecano yesterday, and interest in him from the Premier League. Interest from Tottenham and Arsenal in Marcel Sabitzer. I mentioned it during the last transfer window that Tottenham were keen to bring this player to North London. Arsenal also monitoring his situation closely. And I think they will both be encouraged by the fact that we're hearing over in Germany that he's turned down a new contract at RB Leipzig. So clearly he's someone who is looking to head for pastures new. He's box to box, probably more attacking than Højbjerg. I think Tottenham see him as someone who can become their playmaker. I haven't really had one since Christian Eriksen left, although in order to get the best out of him, I think Jose Mourinho is going to have to be a bit braver than he was last night. I thought, again, that was a very negative performance from Tottenham after going 1-0 up in that game against Fulham.
So, I mean, what would your hunch be? Do you think Sabitzer will move in this window?
Probably not this window.
I mean, time's getting on now, Alex, isn't it?
Yeah, he's contracted until 2022, but obviously having turned down that deal, I think Leipzig are going to have to start looking at selling him and accepting offers, but probably in the summer. But you never know. Listen, there's 2 weeks to go. If Tottenham believe he can make the difference between them being title challengers and not, then maybe Daniel Levy might just get the checkbook out.
And finally, Jesse Lingard. Is this it? Is he out? Is he heading out of United right enough? I mean, there was talk of Nice, wasn't there?
There was. It's an interesting option over in France. Definite interest. I think for personal reasons, Lingard would be reluctant at this stage to move overseas. But I think he and Manchester United have got a big decision to make. He's certainly not a regular part of Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's plans. But I've mentioned this to you last week, Jim. I think a lot of managers are a little bit reluctant to let players leave at the moment because they're aware that they could pick up injuries when the fixture list is more congested than ever before. You've got the COVID-19 situation to factor in. I think Ole Gunnar Solskjaer's preference at this stage would be to keep Jesse Lingard in the building. Might come down to how much the player wants to get out and play. I know Sheffield United have been in talks with Manchester United, but Lingard didn't fancy joining the team bottom of the Premier League. But as I say, he was England's key man at the World Cup when they got to the semi-finals in 2018. His career has fallen off a cliff since then. I think he needs to get out and revitalise it.
Alex, a lot of good stuff there. Thank you very much indeed. Alex Crook with the latest in the world of transfers.